All right, I would like to call this meeting to order. It is 3:00 on May 14th. This is the Policy Review Committee. Good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Weems. I'm the chair of the Policy Review Committee, and the special meeting of the Policy Review Committee is hereby convened. Pursuant to Bylaw 146 and the Virginia Code 2.2-3707, at the Policy Review Committee in April, on April 22nd, I requested that we hold a special meeting for today, Thursday, May 14th at 3:00 at the School Administration Building, number 6, at 2512 George Mason Drive, Virginia Beach, Virginia, in the school board room. And the purpose of this meeting is for one, to namely discuss Policy 618, instructional time, importance and impact review, namely to discuss and take action as needed on policy amendments regarding technology use for students and related matters, and or consultation with legal counsel in closed session if needed. Notice of this special meeting was posted on vbschools.com and the school board's notice board in accordance with applicable law and policy. Members of the public will be able to observe the special meeting in person or live streaming on www.youtube.com at Virginia Beach Schools. And thank you everyone for joining us today in person and online. Are there any other modifications to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Moved by Ms. Felton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bowensteel. Or is there any discussion? Hearing none, I call for a vote to approve the agenda as presented and modified.
So move.
Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. All right, so our action today is 6:18 instructional time. My colleagues, you did receive this. I believe Ms. Linetti sent it out yesterday. You have it in the packet.
Ms. Williams, and I'm pulling it up. After speaking with Mr. Delaney in the detail, I do think we might need to change some clarifying words because what we sent out was sent to you before. So we can go through with these changes in there. So we may have to type some words on here. And I've spoken with Detail about an hour, half an hour ago. There's some other changes they want to discuss, but I think with the clarifications are going to be in paragraph 1. So the changes we're recommending are in D, technology usage guidelines, which would read, the school board recognizes the importance of digital literacy for students to be future ready, to preserve developmentally appropriate instructional time and minimize screen exposure, 1, beginning in the 26-27 school year, Chromebooks or similar devices shall not be utilized, and I believe we wanted to read not be utilized by students. Yeah. One of the things is pointing out that if you said it wasn't utilized in there, it would allow the teacher to use her computer.
Right,
so
right.
We do need to, Miss, can I get you to type that in? Or you? So I'm going to ask Ms. Matson to type this. So where it says utilize, I think utilize shall not be utilized by students in pre-K through kindergarten, pre-kindergarten through first grade. I'm going to read on yours. I can't see. The section does not apply to by students in pre-K through first grade classroom settings. Is that the correct term? I think it's classrooms. Because if they were to be somewhere in the school, like the cafeteria, the library, they may be, they have to type in their number or something like that. So that wasn't our intention. So we want to make sure we're clearing that up. And then I think Dr. Kelly can probably speak to this. We were speaking a little bit earlier. She wanted to clarify some of the usage we have in the next section. So it reads, this section does not apply to technology use specified in Students 504, individualized education plan, used for narrow educational diagnostic purposes or for other adaptive learning needs. Dr. Kelly, if you want to come, she explained to me why there might be a better way to phrase this.
Hello.
Yeah, Dr. Kelly, thank you.
No problem. I would like to consider changing the term narrow to limited, used for limited educational assessment rather than that diagnostic purposes.
Yep. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you what is a diagnostic purpose. So
Yes, we wanted to make sure that limited, we know that we're limiting the amount of time that students are on the screen. So this is actually, rather than a narrow, we're limiting the opportunities for students to have these types of assessments. And right now, as you know, we level set. We use a level set to identify students' areas of strengths and weaknesses using different programs. And we could talk a little bit about that if we want to talk about instruction really quickly. I just want to make sure there are a couple things I wanted to highlight to make sure that you guys were aware of,
Okay.
like the division literacy plan. In the division literacy plan, which is approved by the school board, currently we have a very cohesive plan, kindergarten through 8th grade. One of those programs that we have in there is the Lexia Core 5. And that was one of the instructional programs that in kindergarten and first grade, like all the rest of the grades, they did have those educational assessments where students took a level set. And then that level set provided teachers data. And some students continued to work on those assessments. There was a time range of between 20 minutes per week to up to 80 minutes per week. But those were those computer adaptive programs. But we used that was specifically included in our division literacy plan. So I wanted to note that would be a change that we would just have to make moving forward, which would impact, as you've noted, what we would need to ensure that everyone was aware. Some high quality instructional materials are required by the Virginia Literacy Act. So the Lexia Core 5 is one of those approved resources that we're using in kindergarten and first grade. We'll need to consider and explore another supplemental resource that teachers are using during that independent and small group time, because that's one of the things that was used in kindergarten and first grade right now. In addition to some of those additional resources, we'll do some curriculum writing and professional learning to ensure that we're still differentiating that instruction through that remediation and extension that was provided through that during that time. So just want to make sure that we know that, because that could cause coming to the board with revision to the division literacy plan. And then of course all those other things I noted as far as funds for those additional materials. We're working right now to get some of the additional materials that we need that have been utilized digitally that will need to include some sort of print version in kindergarten and first grade.
So just to summarize that, we would reduce a lot of that usage. They would not get that small group time in the classroom. Dr. Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong. The level sets one time, which then provides the data to then inform small group instruction using another resource, as she was highlighting in that end. Dr. Kelly and I have been working through this process, knowing this discussion has been ongoing, to begin purchasing some of those things with current year funds that we still have. So that's why we appreciate just focusing on pre-K through 1, because we feel like we can execute this in a manner that still provides high quality instruction to students while minimizing some of the impact. So it would be the reason for that educational assessment, and it would give an opportunity for a teacher to give that one assessment online to get data, to then drives how do I respond to that data for a student, where they would no longer get the 20 to 80 minutes that was in the programming before. We'd have to find another source of that remediation aside from the screen, clearly in pre-K through 1.
Right.
And I think it's important that we continually stress that so people don't elevate it beyond those groups.
Right.
So I think Dr. Kelly did a great job explaining that. I just wanted to summarize what she was sharing for the group. Thank you.
All right, so let's just kind of pause here at number 1. So we've got, beginning in the 26-27 school year, Chromebooks or similar devices shall not be utilized by students in pre-kindergarten through first grade classroom settings. This section does not apply to technology use specified in a student's section 504 plan, individual educational plan, use for limited educational assessments or other adaptive learning needs. Okay, so do we have any discussion on just number 1, or any questions or any comments from my colleagues up here?
Yes, thank you, Chair Weems. From what you explained, Mr. Delaney, concerning the small group time to get an assessment for the students there. And I don't know if you're prepared to discuss what other resources you have to go and prepare, or that is something that has to come, you have to tell us about later, how the extensiveness that you have to go to get those other resources for that small group time.
we could probably give a couple examples, but I think it'd be probably better. I think that'd be a question that we would get in front of the full board as well, that they would want to hear that answer. And I think we'd be better poised for that when this comes as an informational item. Because, in full transparency, Dr. Kelly and I were saying, let's see where the PRC is going to determine our next steps on additional resources. So I think over the next week or two, we could probably give a better indication of some of the things, because we have to make some of these decisions from a resource standpoint in current year's budget in the next week and a half. So we're going to move forward pretty quickly. And to summarize, we can give you a better indication of that when this comes as an informational item, I believe, on the 26th.
Okay. So either way, when you mention two major words to me, budget and resource. So I definitely would like to hear.
Yes, I think that's a great question. We can do that for you. We are operating under the expectation that although, and so Ms. Linetti spoke about this a little bit, but a main reason for that landing on in the classroom is it does provide an opportunity for teachers to hit the research standards and computer science standards in a library, some of those other standards that are hit. But we also recognize that that is a transition to another learning space that sometimes is in competition with other grade levels. So we want to make sure those teachers that aren't able to do that still have and Dr. Kelly used this term that I think is really important for you guys to put in the forefront of your mind, is high quality instructional materials. That is what she's really working hard to ensure we provide, because we want to really ensure that any minimization of screen time does not have a negative impact on our students. And if we want to see if it does, we've got to minimize that number, and we've got to see what we substitute it with and then gauge, was this effective? And that's why, again, I appreciate not including beyond first grade, because it really gives us an opportunity to measure if this was the right move as we start analyzing the data over the year.
Some of the things that you mentioned, they are and will be my concern. Exactly what you said about high quality direct instruction, resources, and budget.
Yes.
Because what the changes that we're making are they're more than moderate changes to me. They are high, and things that we have to do, especially with the teachers, professional development that they will have to get as well. That's going to be included in all of this.
I think it's an accurate perception on your part. I think everybody would agree that that's something we want to ensure that high quality instruction continues.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Bowensteel, any comments on number one?
I think I'm good.
Okay, well, yeah, I appreciate, and we've had some discussions too about to make sure it's clear that this is talking about students and then in the classroom settings. And I would like to say that I have spent a great amount of time talking with teachers, parents, media specialists, library media specialists about this. So, and it seems that from all my conversations, it seemed pretty universal when we were talking about 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, pre-K through first grade. And then the second grade was where it was kind of getting a little bit, we don't know. And so I think that this is a good compromise to say, let's pause. And like you said, at the end of this year, next year, we can see if the reduction was helpful, if it was harmful, and to move forward or not to move forward. So I appreciate that as well. All right, so no changes with number one from what they have right now. Okay. All right. Number two, I guess would be the same. I guess we would change that narrow educational diagnostic purposes to the same language as limited educational assessments. Is that correct, Dr. Kelly? Okay. So Cameron, do you want to just take number two since you started off, or?
Sorry, Ms. Matson's typing in. Beginning the 26-27 school year, students in grades 2 will remain one-to-one Chromebooks or similar devices, but cannot take Chromebooks or similar devices home. This section does not apply to technology use specified in a student's Section 504 plan, individualized education plan, a use for limited educational assessment or other adaptive learning needs. So this one is specifically second grade.
Right.
And the difference between them and we'll see the upper grades is that they won't be taking the Chromebooks home.
Right.
I may have.
No, limited
That's right.
educational assessments. Yeah, we've substituted that in.
Sorry, I may have read the wrong one. So I may have. I don't know.
We knew what you were talking about.
What's on the board?
Okay, so number 2, just then reemphasize so that we're all clear that second grade will remain 1-to-1, but they will not be taken home. Okay. All right. And then the same as the end of number 1. Any comments or suggestions or concerns
I just
on
have
number 2?
I got a question.
Yes, Mr. Pence.
Do we have anything in place for the second graders who are not taking their Chromebook? Like, I don't know, we used about 5 different languages to describe weather last time, so I'm not sure where we're at. But in other words, when they have weather and school's closed, do we have anything yet in place, or are we working on, like, what kind
Well,
of
and
packet or?
this wouldn't apply here because they're 1-to-1. It would be easy to then say they need, if we felt like it needed to go home for those purposes, we could make that happen for second grade, no problem.
Okay.
We did not include any of that for pre-K through 1 because that's going to be a logistical challenge for us to make that prediction. So we'll work with those teachers and resources, and we do that already to a degree. But it will be a challenge for us on that level for remote to know well in advance if they're going to be out that long or require any type of computer device.
Just a clarification, this one specifically will not allow the second graders to take them home. So they're going to have to get whatever type of assignments in the same way that pre-K through pre-K through 1 get.
Thank you, Cammie. I apologize.
Yeah.
Well, unless you want to add the language that says in case of inclement weather and school closings, second graders would be able to take it home. So that's another option as well.
Or possibly, Ms. Williams, I'm sorry, possibly at the end of this saying the superintendent can blah, blah, blah in the event of.
I have a feeling that certain school board members are not going to want the superintendent to override this. They want to put this in here. So I don't think general language like that. You'd either have to. We took all the language out from the last time
Right.
about the unclear weather because we thought it was clearer. No pre-K through 1, 2 during only in the classroom. So pre-K through K do not go home for any reason. And then we didn't feel like we needed to specify in 3 through 5 because they would have the same procedures that they always had.
And that's what I'm saying.
Mr. Bowen still raised a great point. We did not want it for pre-K to first grade because logistically we could not make that happen. Second grade has 1-to-1 devices. They're devices in the classroom. If the board felt it was appropriate, you could add language to the end of number 2 that indicates only during inclement weather where schools are closed can grade 2 students take home their device if it's the will of the board. And that's only because I was addressing Mr. Bowenstill's question. If it's not the will of the board, then they will get their assignments the exact same way as pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade. Mm-hmm. Just throwing that option out there.
Okay, discussion about that. Mr. Bowensteel, your thoughts about that?
If they're using it 1-to-1 and they're already having it, to me, it just kind of makes sense. I guess we'll have some sort of approval from superintendent or designee or something in lines, or just automatically, would they just be, if the school's closed? You know what I'm trying to say? Is there like a decision that has to be made, or we're making it that they automatically just get to take them home?
It would need to be written into the policy. We
Yeah.
would not make the decision otherwise because currently it says they will not go home.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's only under the unique circumstances of schools being closed for inclement weather, then we would need to add that language to the policy, because if not, second grade will not take these devices home.
So, yeah, so we've got to decide, because I'm assuming that 4-year-olds don't have homework. Is that a correct assumption, that pre-K doesn't have homework? I hope not. Well, I mean, but class, you're talking about, yeah, you're not talking about homework, I'm sorry. So if we have a school closure because of snow, kindergarten and first grade, I'm assuming we'll have some sort of paper packet or something, the way this is written. So now we have to decide, do we want second graders to do that? Or do we want to say, when school is closed because of weather, that since they have one-to-one, they can take them home for remote learning, or we don't need to call it, that. So that, we need to decide that right today. Do we want to add that sentence?
My opinion is yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts, Ms. Felton?
Thank you.
To add this, do you want the ability for second graders to take a Chromebook home?
Is it normal for, or has it been our procedure for remote learning for our second grades to have these? We did do this. So I'm in agreement with my colleague, Mr. Bornstein, that we should implement that language in there,
Okay.
if we're doing it anyway now.
Okay. All right. So let's add a sentence to the end of that, Cammie. And I know we had a discussion, kind of a lengthy one, of what to call it last week.
I'll watch over it over again.
Okay, good. And I'm assuming that's why it was left out.
So, Ms. Woodhouse, at the end of your comment you made, you said, if it's the will of the board. Are you adding that piece were you suggesting to add that piece, that language in the policy, or are you saying if that's the will of the board for us to put this in this policy?
Absolutely. I was just addressing Mr. Bowensteel's comment, which he made, since we are one-to-one in second grade, taking the device home, I'm not sure how Kimmy's gonna, it looks like when she's saying something around when in-person learning cannot take place due to some type of inclement weather.
Not the limit to limit. I don't want to limit it to weather or anything.
So you have to, and I'll tell you why. Because when you say in-person learning cannot take place, I could be home sick for 3 days and I just want my device. You have to be clear for us, because we don't want any ramifications on anyone's part. So if the only time the device goes home, and again, I said to the will of the board, is because the agreement was second grade would not take it home. If you want situations where students are out for a long period of time, but again, that's why I said, Cameron, you have to be specific. We don't want our staff, or our administration being faced with a challenge of can I, when I, should I, could I.
Exactly.
So we need the clearest language
very,
possible.
Very clear. And the will of the board, if we take this to the board and we keep this and the board says, no, I don't want any second grader to ever take a computer home, then they can, they can make the amendment and overturn it, of course. I was talking to a teacher the other day and she asked if we could make sure that middle schoolers don't ever take them home because they're getting torn up and all that stuff broken. But I said, that's probably not going to happen. Okay, so let's see what we've got there. When schools are closed for in-person learning and remote learning is authorized for all students, grade 2 students may take Chromebooks home. That seems pretty clear to me, but I will ask staff if that's clear.
I don't want to limit to weather because I think there are some emergency circumstances or we've scheduled.
That was my next question.
Yeah, when schools are closed for in-person learning and remote learning is authorized for all students, grade 2 students may take Chromebooks home.
Chromebooks or similar devices.
Yeah, that was. Okay. You think it's statute or policy? Okay. Sorry, Dr. Troutman's pointing out where I maybe get the language we need.
We're just looking up language for those who are wondering. We're going to pause a little bit and let our legal experts make sure.
And so I can fill up some of the air, Ms. Weems, as they're looking that up. One of the things we're making sure we think about is we do have an emergency learning plan for inclement weather. That on day 1 this occurs, day 2 this occurs, day 3 this occurs. And so we're trying to make sure we match that language, because I could also look at that and say, schools are closed for in-person learning. A lot of, would somebody say, is that a staff day? You know, I just some questions come to my mind that we can clean that language up around what is considered on those areas. And
Miss Linetti, I think we need to say when schools are closed for in-person learning due to inclement weather.
Yeah, I don't think that's the right term. So I don't think by the statute, I think it's something like severe weather. So that's why I gotta check that.
Okay, weather emergency. Because I think you need to take out and remote learning is authorized, because remote learning is not authorized. The state doesn't say to us, because school is closed today for weather, we have authorized a
Right.
learning day.
Right.
We come to the board for approval for those days. So that's what I'm thinking. Don't put so much language in there that basically you lock out the opportunity to take them home. I think it's when schools are closed for in-person learning due to, there you go, severe weather events. But don't put the and remote learning piece in there. Don't put that in there at all. Yeah, and that's why we say severe weather, because you guys know we're prone to tornadoes and
Yeah.
different things as well, and that's why we don't just say snow.
All right. So Dr. Kelly showed me the language is reading severe weather conditions or other emergency situations. A full definition appears in, what's it, 22.198, 22.198. I mean, that is a section that talks about the amount of hours or days you have. That's what we've been worried about. We don't want to say anything that disqualifies that time is meeting the necessary time you have to make pursuant to the statute. So the language that's proposed will read, is suggested is when schools are closed for in-person learning due to severe weather events or other emergencies. I'm actually wonder if, and why don't we just take out, we don't need to say in-person, when schools are closed for what severe, so
Yeah,
when schools are closed for weather events and other emergencies, I don't think we need the rest of.
Because that would cover your staff
Yes.
day, because the staff's not gonna go when we have a tornado. Yeah, that would cover that, yeah.
Yes, so that means a statutory requirement, which would meet the amount of days you need.
Okay, thank you, see? That looks pretty good. Thank you for your comments and questions. Okay, anything else on number 2? Is that good, Cammie?
All right, sorry, we're gonna change this conjunction instead of say
Take a
and or other emergencies, and/or other emergencies. Because we wouldn't want, you only had a tornado, but you didn't have any other emergency. It's not two-part, it can be one or the other.
Okay, that looks good. Okay, number 3.
All right, beginning in the 26-27 school year, students in grades 3 through 5 will maintain one-to-one Chromebooks or similar devices and will be allowed to take such Chromebooks or similar devices home.
All right, and that's just to clarify, to make sure everybody knows that 3 through 5 is as is. The same practices we currently do.
And 4 would be the school board directs the superintendent designee to provide an annual report and presentation on student screen time. This report shall include data aggregated by grade level, trends over time across grade levels, and any plan to mitigate screen time.
Any comments on number 4? Ms. Felton, any comments or concerns or suggested changes on number 4?
No.
All right, well, again, I think this is good. We have talked about this a lot. Thank you, staff.
I like to make a statement though.
Yeah, okay, you go ahead and I'll,
No.
no, but, no, you go
After,
ahead.
after.
I got you. You go.
I'd like to thank the staff as well for all your work that you've done. Dr. Kelly, Dr. Gold, Mr. Delaney, Dr. Woodhouse, Miss Trotman, Dr. Trotman, keeping our staff in mind. And I'm hoping that you took the time, even though this is a policy coming from the board which we govern. I hope that all of the 90+% survey that the teachers sent in was included in your decision and how to go forward with this, because that was important to me. That we heard the voices of the teachers and the community as well. After talking with several principals and seeing the action for myself in the classroom, and you did go back. I appreciate you really delving in on the data that the teachers need to just assess our students to see where they are. And they were using it for that time, because that was one of the conversations that they did have with me extensively, that the data that they know where our students are and how they could move forward with helping them to succeed, to be better students. Glad that you included all that in it. I just want to make sure that we understand that any changes that we make is almost like, for the best terminology that I have, is like a domino reaction, because you have to professional development for teachers, reassign things, and the two words that kept coming up from Mr. Delaney was budget, time, and resources. And I'm looking forward to how that's going to come out, how that's determined. That is my comment. I'm glad that we got to this point with this policy. And sometimes you have to choose which hill you're going to die on. So I can compromise with a lot that's been languages that is in this. And thank you, Attorney Linetti. Thank you as well for all that you do. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I think this is a compromise, because I think, and like I said, from talking to folks, and this includes teachers, library media specialists, parents, you have no Chromebooks at all until sixth grade, to Chromebooks for everybody all the time. I mean, there is such a different range of opinion on this. And so I think what the board has done is we're trying to address a problem that we believe exists. So I think we're doing it in a very, very responsible, cautious moving way. And I think that that then we'll see if the reduction was helpful, and hopefully I think it will be. But and then we'll see all the logistics surrounding that when y'all get back with us. But I do think that that this is a very reasonable policy, and making a change that we believed needed to happen. But like I said, I think that we've done it in a very reasonable way. And I appreciate Ms. Felton and Mr. Bowensteel's comments. And again, after talking to so many people, this is a compromise, and it's one that I will be able to get behind as well. Mr. Bowensteel, any lasting thoughts? No words of wisdom? No. Okay. All right.
Just a motion, make sure your motion to send it to the next PRC agenda, since we're a little off cycle. Do you just want to? We can't. Correct. That's what I say. Do you want it to go as a PRC recommendation for information? Then put it to PRC for information, and then we'll handle it from there.
Specifically D onto the school board at the next school board meeting for information.
I'll motion it.
Motion by Mr. Bowensteel. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Felton. Any more discussion? Okay, the vote is to send as amended today, letter D on this policy 618 to the next school board for information. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Everyone for your help.
And reminder,
comments.
you still have another May meeting.
Yes, we have, yes,
27.
the 27th of May for the other policies. Okay, thank you.